At the outset of gentrification here in Harlem, New York City, many of the bankers, and some of them were Jewish, and I don't say that pejoratively or that I have some sort of a hatred for Jews, that's not what I want to express, realized the immense financial potential of Harlem in terms of its geographic locations, its proximity to the LaGuardia Airport, Kennedy Airport, its bedroom of Central Park and Times Square, the financial district, and that there were literally trillions of dollars of real estate were just withering away, inhabited by many of the Hamite or the Black or the Negro people here in Harlem. And at the time, Al Sharpton had risen to great prominence after his riots. He stirred up the riots in Crown Heights and was actually instrumental in many of the deaths of the young Australian student, the Jewish student from, and he and David Dinkins were both instrumental in the death and the stirring of the riots in Crown Heights. And David Dinkins had risen to the point of becoming mayor, a one-term mayor of New York City, and Al Sharpton had become the de facto political leader of the Negro African-American people globally. And the Jewish bankers, even after what happened in Crown Heights, to show something about their commitment or their absence of integrity, met with met with Al Sharpton at the Cotton Club and gave him a sack full of money. It was $800,000 that Al Sharpton walked out of. They told him they wanted to start buying up property for the gentrification process of Harlem and asked him not to lead any riots. They needed any marches against their process of gentrification. This is going back 20 years ago. Back in 2015, we led several marches against Al Sharpton ourselves, mainly because he was a public degenerate. Al Sharpton was known as has been identified by the New York Post as a CIA intelligence officer, number 7. He became a snitch. This was reported in the New York Post. This is not something that's reported in some restaurant, some small newspaper. Al Sharpton has been reported as a snitch, labeled as such, right there in the major newspapers. And so we led marches against Reverend Rat, and we have continued. We led marches against him at his studio, and MSNBC studio on 47th Street. We did marches against him at the BMW on 57th Street. Until Al Sharpton was taken down by MSNBC, he had a program there, I think a nightly program at 6 o'clock, weekday program. We led marches and MSNBC took him down. They've recently, over the years, snuck him back in on the weekends with a 5 o'clock program on Saturday and Sunday. But we had him taken down from MSNBC. That was back in 2015. Our marches against him were very effective. We have now come to learn by a prominent New York lawyer that our legal problems with the city of New York are now being kept alive by Al Sharpton whispering in the ear of Mayor de Blasio and other agencies that are now continuing to attack us through the legal and court systems. You see, we are a church, and everybody, de Blasio knows this. All the governor, all the courts and judges, they all know it. They know that we have fed over 1 million meals. We're headed towards 1.5 million meals over a period of 30 years here in the community, that we didn't get any assistance from the government. They know that we educate children and send them off to some of the finest institutions ever. We've got 2 students right now, one a doctorate program in Fordham, a doctorate program in St. John's. We've got law school students right now that were raised, born in this church, born in this ministry, graduated from ATLAH High School, and are now doing extraordinary things. Scholarship money just flying all over everywhere. Some of the best training and education. They know that we're doing that. And you would think, well, they know that we run a homeless shelter. They know that we've been running a homeless shelter for years, a soup kitchen for years. And they know that the church, though you may not agree with our biblical position, whether it's fundamental or whether it's open, love everybody or not, but they know, Bill de Blasio, they know what we do. They know we do a credible job. They know that we are a light and a beacon in this community. And they know the little amount of water and sewer services that we use in this church is minuscule compared to the great philanthropic work that we do on a daily basis. Our church is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You come to this church hungry or homeless, you're going to get taken care of. You never get turned around. No one ever gets turned around. They know that. So why are they pursuing us? Not for taxes, not for a mortgage, or bills that we didn't pay. Why are they pursuing us, even at this late date in courts? They've reverberated, they've recharged the courts to now try to bring another action against us. Why are they doing this? Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton, not just him, but a lesser figure, Keith Wright, who was once the assemblyman here in the Harlem district. We led in protests against him and his use of crack as an assemblyman, New York State assemblyman. And he was a crackhead, Keith Wright. He now works for a midtown law firm. And so our problems are being, legal problems are being, Al Sharpton is getting revenge for what we did, having him just about fired by MSNBC. We had him taken down. We actually had them closed down. His midnight, I mean not midnight, his evening broadcast. We had Al Sharpton taken down. We did that. We were very effective. There was a restaurant across town called Jaya Restaurant, and we marched against it. And they said they do not want their restaurant advertising on Al Sharpton's program. We were very successful against Al, the Reverend Al. Now Al's according to the New York Post and according to reports that have been documented by the New York Post, Al Sharpton was a drug dealer, that he actually sold drugs here in Harlem. He was a middleman between the mafia and the drug kingpins here in Harlem. We know that he snitched on drug dealers, and that's what the New York Post, a reputable newspaper here, that Al Sharpton wore a wire for the FBI so that they could get information on the mob. Al Sharpton is a snitch. They call him Reverend Rat. We know that he did that. And we know that he is still on the FBI rolls of snitching whatever he can snitch. We also know that he led a hoax called the Tawana Brawley hoax. He lied about Tawana Brawley. We know that he's done all these things. We know that he led a riot against the Jews in Crown Heights, he and David Dinkins. We know that he's done all these things. We know, and yet he still has a prominence on MSNBC. But we led a march against him, and we were very successful, and we took him down. And so his retaliation is that we should be attacked by the courts over our property. And so they regurgitated a fight against us in terms of trying to take down our ministry, knowing that we do an extraordinary job. So here's the deal. You know, if we have to pay, in fact, I've now charged our attorney to make a settlement with the bank that wants to, that law firm. I've charged our attorney last week to we'll go and settle. We'll dig in our pockets, we'll cough up the money, and we'll pay it. But before we do, we want to expose where this is coming from. I've talked to our attorneys who understands the process of what we're doing here, and they're making an offer to settle, and we'll pay. We'll pay. And the Lord will provide for us. But after that, we want to expose Al Sharpton, because after that, he'll have no way in which to come at us. Right now, he's using the courts and the judges to come at us. And we understand that. We're big boys. We understand that. He's got the ear of Bill de Blasio, who's the mayor of New York City, who said that Al Sharpton is the new Martin King, Dr. Martin Luther King. He said Al Sharpton is in the likes of Dr. Martin Luther King. And Al likes to talk about what Sister Coretta Scott King said to him years ago before her death. We'll pay. And then we'll cut off the avenue. Legally, they will not be able to come at us any further. But I thought it was important that we would express that today and to all of our well-wishers and friends, and let them know that our legal problems have stemmed from Al Sharpton having the ear of Bill de Blasio, the judges in the courts, the city agencies, and some of the agencies still might harass us. We get harassed every day by some agency, and they'll always ask and inquire about this, but our books are always in order. Our stuff is always clean and always in order. But Al has done that, and I was thankful to hear this from a prominent lawyer inside of the politics that go on in New York City, because the people of the city of New York fear this church, and they fear the fact that we are enlightening the people of the community who have been sitting in darkness, who've allowed themselves to think that Al Sharpton was ever for them. And so they wanted to put our lights out. And, several years ago when I first started ministry, I was up at the Convent Avenue Baptist Church at the Baptist Ministers Conference, and I was a young boy, and I didn't have any money, and I wanted to buy a Schofield Bible. And at the time, we're talking now 40 years ago, the Bible cost $35. Back then, in those days, a Schofield. I didn't have the money, so every Monday at the conference, I'd go by the table where that man was selling that Bible and said, I want to buy a Bible. And I tried to get him to reduce the price. And one of the old pastors came by and said to me, he said, son, I see you every Monday trying to get that Bible reduced. He said, here's what you do. The man is not going to reduce the price of the Bible. Go out there and find the money somewhere, the $35 he wants for that Bible, and bring it and give it to him and take the Bible. Stop begging him to reduce the price. Go find the money. And that's what I did. After he gave me that at council, I went and I found the money. And I paid for the Bible. I thought I should have gotten a better price. He was a preacher. I was a young preacher. I was even a student in school. I should have gotten a student's discount. He wouldn't give it to me. I'm simply relating that parable to say they've been chasing us and chasing us. We'll pay the $35. We'll pay the $35. Yeah, we will. And go on about our business. And let Al Sharpton know that we're still going to come at him. Because after that, there's nothing that they can bring against us. After that, there's nothing they can bring against. They can send their agents in here to try to inspect whether or not our fire system is right or whether this is going on. But we're jam up and jelly tight. We're smart operation. We're a very smart operation. We got a stomp down, structured organization going on here. We have survived in Harlem because we're a smart operation. We have survived because we're very acute and astute and we understand the process. Unlike Al Sharpton's organization, which is up on 145th Street, which is a couple of blocks away from here, which is a shabby organization. I wouldn't even go in that thing. I'd be afraid the roof is going to cave in on me at Al Sharpton's National Action Network. No, we've got a smooth operation. They got a stomp down operation. So I thought I would share those things today that we might be able to better appreciate who we are as a people of God and encourage the membership. And those of you who globally have watched what's happening, it was just recently where an insider, actually a whistleblower inside of the de Blasio administration who has access. Here's how this works. The city of New York agency, it's not the banking industry that's coming at us, it's the city of New York and its agency, the Department of Environmental Protection, which comes under the city of New York. That's the agencies coming at them. And then they're filtering their grievance against us into the courts. And it's the New York City court system. They call it the New York State Supreme Court system, but it's the New York City court system that is being filtered by, and Al Sharpton has the ear of de Blasio, and de Blasio is telling them to shut us down, but we'll pay instead. No, we will. But know that my fight with Al Sharpton is not over with yet. We can march against him again, but I'm going to choose my battles wisely. I don't, just because someone picks a fight with me, doesn't mean I have to retaliate. And I choose my battles carefully. And my path will cross Al Sharpton's path again. And it'll be at a critical time that I'll wait. I'll wait for the opportunity to plan my next march against Al Sharpton. I'll wait for an opportunity to plan my next march against the gentrifiers here in Harlem. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.